I hope everyone is well. This is one of the snackable webinars, which a series of product managers and other people will be holding for Vizlib. This one is dominated by Gantt. So we'll give it a maybe to the minute 30, because obviously we want to make this one nice and quick. Should be done within 10-15 minutes max. Yeah, okay, so we'll give them 10 more seconds and then we can start. That's good enough. Right then, hello everyone. It is me once again hosting another Gantt webinar. This one is titled Project Manager Like a Pro. A key to all project management tools is the Gantt chart, and for all you Qlik savvy people, the Vizlib Gantt chart will certainly help to speed up and generally improve project planning, people planning, resource planning capabilities for your organization. So let's get on. For those who don't know me already, my name is Tolchard. I'm a product manager at Vizlib. The products I look after are the user portal, partner portal, and a few other internal tools, as well as Vizlib Gantt. And for those of you who are quite on it, you can see I've now added library here. I'm slowly taking on that as well. Alongside Liron. So if you have feature requests and things like that, you should see my face pop up a lot more. Awesome. So what are we actually doing? So the purpose of this webinar is to show you people the prowess and the capabilities of Gantt, but obviously the best practices and the things that we want to, the key tools of it. So we have the setup wizard and property panel. Like most tools that Vizlib produce, there is a setup wizard, and like every tool, we have a properties panel. And there is no time for a Q&A. So if you do have any questions, please do drop them in the Q&A box and we will get back to you. But first off, I have a question for you. I'm going to launch this poll. You guys should be able to see it. So how many times a week do you access a Qlik sheet that has a Vizlib Gantt on it? I'll keep this poll running for a little bit and I will go on to the next scene. So the story, what are we actually doing? What are we making? So I'm a company called Vizlib, and I want to make a logistics application. I want to be able to see when my drivers are on time, delayed, or ahead of schedule. I want to see where they're delivering to, and I want to see a few other key bits of information. So I want to understand time scheduling. I want to understand delivery statuses and understand overlapping of proposed events. So let's do this. Cool. So I have already imported my data from my sheets into here, and I have a bunch of lovely table data. There is a lot more. I've only just inputted a few rows or few columns, but for me to understand what's happening here, I have my start time and my end time. It's extremely difficult to understand it, of course. So this is where the Vizlib Gantt will come into its zone. So to start with the Vizlib Gantt, simply drag it on, open wizard. Now from here, you can either pick a template, which will set one of these lovely predefined templates for you. And then if you were to select it, you can then go into the setup wizard. Or let me go back. Or you can just start straight from here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start from here. So with the oh, look at that, how lovely. No, 2, 1, and 5, and 6. Wow, like that. All right, good stuff. Thank you very much. Yes, so we have events which are the key things of what tell us what is happening with your time scheduling or your data. So we have search for my event field. You have name, and this is quite an interesting one because if I have an event field, which is, for instance, I want to choose the destination or the arrival, sorry. So I want the arrival of where my person is delivering the package. So I've got delivery arrival here. And for instance, if I want to specify it by, maybe I don't want the arrival location to be the name, maybe I want it to be something else, I can choose a different label for it here. So for instance, if I want the on-time status to be here, to be the primary thing, or if I want the delivery arrival, which is obviously this, or if I want the time, that is even delivered at or started at. So this is the main field which we'll use to determine the event. And then this is an optional name tag you can give it. So dates, we pre-select some dates or number fields that the Gantt recognizes as being dates. So I've got one here called start time. I've also got my date, my time, and my end times. So I'm going to go start time. Here you have your date or duration. Sort of self-explanatory. Date is when you pick a set date. However, you may have a field which is like the duration of hours or the duration of days a task may take. So for instance, then you would use the duration. Just to say that you don't necessarily need to have any date fields in here. You can make them single event objects, which is when they will just appear from the top. They'll just appear on the Gantt with no duration time. Progress. So if your projects are progress sensitive, you can choose the correct field here. I don't have that, but I do have an event tag. So my event tag is if I want something to be my on-time status, is I want to know simply by looking at my Gantt if something is on time, ahead of schedule, or delayed. So that is the first screen done. Let's go to next. Awesome. So we have these few events up here. Depending on what you want, will reflect in here. I don't want cascading events. So if you choose a sub-event group, or parent group, you don't need the event group or parent group, but you definitely need your event group. And it reflects here of what each thing is. I don't want that either, of what each thing is. So starting with the bottom one, go with this sub-event group, and I want that to be drive ID. So this, for me, is the event when someone is actually driving the vehicle. Now my event group, I want to group it by something, but I'm going to group mine by the driver name, and then my parent group. What is a higher category or a higher dimension than my driver name, and what can it all group by? And I know I have two vehicles, so I can do it by vehicle ID. Color and theming, you have your single color, you have your event and group. Event, you can choose from a couple here. There are more once you get into the property panel, but that will be shown later on. Go to next. Now, if I want to highlight my weekends, I can. Again, it will resemble here of what it could look like. Highlight date, this is the line by here. And where do I want things to be shown? So I want to know what's happening today. So whenever I load my Gantt, it will always appear on today's date. Your default time range, this is simply how close your zoom is natively when you load your Gantt. So I want mine to be a weekly schedule. So it will only ever display 7 dates at maximum zoom. So let's create that. Let it do its magic. And we see that we have some events. Awesome. So now we can get going into the property panel. We see here that I've got all my events, which are nicely laid out for me. And let's begin into the property panel. Let me hide that. Cool. So if you want, you can now choose a template. You don't have to. You have your own published templates if you're company relevant, or we can go to even my templates, which are your personal templates. I don't want to do any of that, but if you do like something that you've already designed, you can save your own template here. So dimensions. If there's a field which is incorrect here, this is obviously where you do it. You can also define your dimension in one of these FX columns. Again, you can also change the label. Let's go to custom event objects. Now then, let's say, for instance, I want during this period on the 17th, I want there to be a line by here saying, I don't know, let's call it something like, I'm going to call this reference name load in vehicles. Now, with this reference line, it will appear wherever I put in a date. So let's put in a date by here. Let's see if I remember how to do this. I may embarrass myself in front of everyone right now. So month 17, 20, 20. Did it work? Oh no, I don't think my Qlik Sense skills are that fantastic. Right. I can show you an example I can show you an example later. Anyway, this is where reference lines would appear. You have your custom milestones. Same thing as this date. That's the issue. No, I'm just bad at development. Your custom milestones. These are things which are single event objects. So, for instance, if I was to press done on my Qlik sheet, I can click here, I can right click and then go into milestones or events. Let's add a milestone and I want it on this date. I'm going to name it peanuts because why not? That's the first thing that appeared. AV1, I'm going to select Roy and I'm going to put on this line, submit. So we can now see I have an event here called peanuts. This is something which is quite powerful. It doesn't involve you having to go into the data load editor and add in this itself, or even into your what you call your data. So I can now see that my custom milestone here, peanuts, has appeared. Custom periods, same thing. I can show you another example because as you previously saw, my coding abilities aren't up to scratch. Yeah, so custom periods, you can highlight certain periods on a Gantt chart. For instance, if you want to highlight a certain area within Roy's business, let's say something happened here, I can highlight this area using a custom period. And then finally, custom events. If you saw when I was on my right-click menu, I had my event here. I can choose a time and date. So let's just say this finished at 13. Label hello world. Let's again add it to here, and I'm going to add it there. So we'll see that I'll soon have an event that appears. And then this will also appear in the custom event object. You can either do it through this add-in button here, or by right-clicking on the Gantt. Cool. So my sorting, if I want to sort it in a different order, I so can. I'm not going to at the moment because I like the way it appears, and the order of the events and everything that was the order of the dimensions were presented to me in the setup wizard, so I don't really need to organize any of this. Data handling, if you so choose, you can suppress zero values, calculation conditions. I can show you another nice example, and display message. So with a calculation condition, for instance, you can set it to there has to be something applied for anything to appear on the Vizlib Gantt. And then if you want to display a smaller number of events, you so can, or a larger number. 2000 is a limit of the number of events you can that you can actually present on the Gantt. This isn't a Vizlib Gantt issue. This is more of a Qlik Sense issue, just to say. Settings. So you have your timeline, and you have your date, and you have your range and zoom. Timeline, as it may suggest, it affects what happens on your timeline. So, for instance, you can start your days on Sunday or Monday. Oops. Your direction, if you want at the top and bottom, hide the weekends if you so choose, weekend background color. You can highlight current date. You can play around with a lot of these options, and this essentially gives you the ability to change how this how your Vizlib Gantt actually looks. So yeah, let's say for instance I don't want my normal stripe color being a soft gray. I want it to be a slightly yellow color. I can do that. I can hit send, and now is a yellow color. This is just something to present to make your Gantt look more business suitable. Actually, let's put it by there. A bit harsh on the eyes. There we are. Holidays. If you have any holiday periods, these can be notified here. So you can use a different color to outline them. Let's say, for instance, you have Hanukkah, you have Christmas, or you have Easter, or any of the other many holidays that maybe you want to highlight them so you can understand why certain people or groups of people are not won't be working on what day. Or for instance, in terms of my logistics thing, I can know, right, okay, let's say there's a public holiday on February the 18th. I know that on February the 18th, I shouldn't schedule any more deliveries because everyone will be off on holiday. Range and zoom, as the name says, this is what affects your range and zoom. So here I can enable range boundaries. So I may choose a fixed date, or I may choose a variable date. So if I go in here and I start input in, let's go equals, I have my start date, which is date. I have my time date there. I'm going to do this, and then that will be my start date. Whoops. There we are. Start, and let's get rid of that. And I want my end date by here. If I now click that, my start and end date will be fixed. I can also choose to select a horizontal scroll bar. I have another example of how this app looks afterwards. And now you can go into your focus dates. So again, on the setup wizard, we presented you with these options, but again, if you so choose to change how your dates are, what your focus dates are, then this can be done in this little column in this section by here. For some people, you may not care about your hours. For me, who's a time sensitive logistics company, I do. So I shall always keep my hours on, and the more you zoom in, you can start seeing your hours and minutes. Again, your zoom settings and your days displayed. So I chose that I only wanted a week, 7 days to be displayed. But for instance, if you want 100, if you want 30, if you want 1,000, this can be done by here as well. Again, this goes for your minimum days displayed. You can change this number to be whatever you want. For instance, I may only want the minimum days displayed to be 2. And then this will update, and it'll only ever allow me to zoom in a maximum of 2 days. So let's go to the appearance. Now in here we have a few bits. Let's go to general. If I want, I can name, I can give it a nice title, subtitle, footer if I so choose, and I can toggle off the hover menu, which is up here. So if I was to do that, you'd see that this now disappear. Alternative states, if you so have any, this is where this can be done. Groups and layouts. If I so choose to have headers in my parents group, which are up here, I can have them turned off. Or if I want to show the order number, which is the number of which these will be displayed, again, that is something I can do here. Expand all, let's say you have a lot of events, but you don't want them to be all displayed at the same time. Well, let's do that and let the user decide what they want. You see here actually that I have a null value, so I can actually go back up to my dimensions. I can click on this, I can exclude null values. Also in this, in the parent dimension, in the very first one that you put up here, that you selected in the setup wizard, you have the ability to set custom HTML tooltips. I have done a video on it, which you can search on the internet and on YouTube, called how to make custom HTML tooltip with Vizlib Gantt. This can be done in here, and it goes into a very in-depth understanding of the HTML tooltip and how it is done. So if you do care to learn how to make some cool viz tips, sorry, not viz tips, HTML tooltips, you can do that fairly simply with a little bit of HTML knowledge. Right, let's go back to appearance. Colors and group headers, as it says, I can so choose how I want my Gantt colored. And this just simply changes the color of the events. As we see here, I can also choose to reverse colors. Again, it's all dependent on how aesthetically pleasing you would want your Gantt to be. Event and milestone. This is the for the event and milestones that I made. So let's say I want a certain event to be different. I so can do that in here. Let's say though I want my label for the tag to be outside. I want my tag to be outside, which is the ahead, on time, or delayed. This is where this can be done. So I would find it in here, and I would select the property that would turn it off. So you can also search for. There we are. So I can now have a better understanding of what is happening with my events. Let's change the color so it's easier to see. And then that will reset one more time. I can now see quickly, without having to zoom in any further, which events that were previously happened, what their status was. So I can see that my trip to Brighton here for Roy was ahead of schedule, but I can now see that his trip to Portsmouth was delayed. Let me close that, and let's go to milestone settings. Again, your milestones is a fairly simple object, so just simply all you have to do here is choose the colors that you'd like them to be. As we can see here, changes color. And that is the main things from the Vizlib Gantt. You do have interactivity. These are additional options, but to be honest, most of them will suit the need for most power users of Vizlib Gantt and regular users. So I very rarely adjust any of these. But as promised, let me find the examples of. Let me get to my app home, app overview even. Let me find my examples of where the custom periods come into play. Mm-hmm. Cool. So I can see that when my World War II app loads, I can see, oh, that's probably a bad example. I updated it and I broke it. Hotel data, that will do. Cool. So I can see when my custom events are. So as I said, for my holiday seasons, I can have that show here. This is a custom period. And for the reference lines, unfortunately, I think this was the only app that I have put them in, but there'll be a video coming out soon on how to implement them. So now that I have my Vizlib Gantt sorted and to a fairly decent standard of where I can understand what I want to do with it, let's put it into a more business-friendly scenario. So this is an app like in good Blue Peter fashion I made earlier. So I can now see that using implementation of the write back table, the Vizlib Gantt, and library tools, I can understand and start to draw insights quicker and faster using the Vizlib Gantt along with the other tools that Vizlib provides. So for instance, such as the tooltips I've got here. This is just an API. So every time I load one of these images, it's sort of like a lucky dip of what I actually get. And then I can see if it's delayed or not. I can also now draw insights faster. I can see Ahmed here is well on it, whereas the other people are a little bit further behind, and Paul is slowly is losing the game a bit. I can see, depending on the different people, what their statuses are, and all these different insights. I think the true power of Gantt, it does come from how quick you can draw insights. Like I can see at the moment that my person is on time for a delivery, but I can see that this on-time delivery may potentially delay his final departure back to the London office. Yeah, so I know this is kind of a very quick overview. We've gone a little bit over time, but I hope for everyone that this was somewhat beneficial. And any questions, please do leave them in the Q&A chat, and we will try and answer them all on emails, I'm assuming. That will be coming out after this webinar. And that's everything. So yes, thank you very much. And thanks for using Vizlib.